Take a moment.
What's that? Yeah. We're good.
That's why we were going to get you started. That was part of the agenda tonight.
That was property committee, yeah.
Good evening, everyone. We'll call the meeting to order. Rebecca, would you please call the roll?
Hamilton?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Rasmussen? Gandy?
Yes.
Anderson? Yes. Hallie?
Yes.
Flournoy?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Council, any additions to this evening's agenda? Okay, not, we'll move to our consent agenda. And in that, we have approval of minutes from the May 14th council meeting, approval of the May 18th payroll of $113,270.21, approval of our general obligation debt in amount of $78,475, approval of the library board minutes, a resolution of employment for our police department, and it's a communications specialist, resolution of employment in Parks and Recreation, our cast of lifeguards for the summer, approval of the liquor licenses for Everybody's Whole Foods and Cafe Paradiso, and approval of claims in the amount of $230,658.28, of which we have one claim in the amount of $88,152.83. Any questions regarding those consent agenda items? If not, entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Anderson, second by Thompson. Any discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Anderson? Yes. Thompson?
Yes.
Gandy?
Yes.
Hamilton?
I'll abstain from the minutes, but approve of the rest.
Okay. Flournoy?
Yes.
Hallie?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next, council, we'll move to our public appearances, and first will be our Park and Rec Director. Is Calvin here?
How's it going?
Good.
This summer, Park and Recreation Department and First Friday Art Walk, along with the library, and Mr. Larrabee's helping out here too, wanting to do movies in Central Park. The dates that we have set would be the third Friday of June, July, August, September. And then October, hopefully be able to do it on the third Friday then too, kind of like a Halloween themed thing, but depending on the weather, might have to move it up a little bit. But the reason that I'm here is because obviously with the days getting longer and it doesn't get dark until about 9 o'clock now, it seems that we will have to go later in the evening. So
Past closing.
Yeah, so movies would be starting probably around 9, little after. I would say they'd probably be wrapping up depending on how long the movie is. Most of them are family-friendly, Disney-type movies is what we're looking at. So, hour and a half, 2 at the most. So it'd be till about 11 o'clock. So that's kind of the reason why I'm here. To kind of ask for permission to, I guess, break our own law.
I believe that's called a variance.
Well, Calvin, I know when we've had some music on the square in the past, we have gone later, and I know sometimes it was involving street closure, sometimes it was actually involving the park itself, but I think there's precedent involved. So for summer activities, council, I think probably a good thing to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Anderson to approve, second by Gandy. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Okay, thank you. So first date is,
June, what's the third Friday? June 15th,
okay,
19th, 15th, 19th?
great. And the first movie?
We don't know yet.
Don't know yet, okay.
Yeah, so, but appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Calvin, appreciate it. Okay, council, the next presentation on your agenda on the housing development roundtable discussion has been canceled. That presentation is going to be given to the Economic Development Committee, and I think has already been given to the Economic Development Association. So any actions or interest in that will come through those later presentations. Next, we have Kay Adam regarding a complaint about a tree. Can you tell us where you live, Kay?
I'm canceling the right to
remove the tree. The tree stands where it is, and I will see you all in court. And it's coming up pretty soon.
Okay, thank you. Can we get, Scott, could you just give us a little background on, because I know at the last meeting, we did approve the removal of the tree.
Yep, I gave you the letter that I sent to Miss Adam back in April 9th, that there was discussion about the trees on her property. There's actually 2 of them. I had Mark Brown, who is a arborist, go out, and he has sent a letter stating that the trees are dead completely. There's no bark left on them. There's no branch or no leafage of any type on them, and that they do pose a hazard to the neighboring property to the west. If they fall, they're going to do pretty significant damage. So that's why we sent her the letter in April, which gave her till May 21st. Then on May 23rd, I wrote her a letter stating that the date had passed and that I had spoke to you, the council, and that as on June 4th, we would be taking the trees down. And that was a certified letter that she received.
Okay, so we have not taken that action yet. We haven't actually taken the trees down yet. Okay. And I assume what she had just said is that she's going to seek some court injunction for us to do that, John? Is that even possible?
She told me she talked to an Ottumwa lawyer, but she didn't tell me what she talked to him about. So
Okay,
I'm assuming we'll hear from John Weber in Ottumwa in the next couple of days.
okay. All right, thank you, Scott. Any questions, council?
So do not take them down until we hear from?
I guess we have it scheduled at this point.
I say we have it scheduled, so do you want him not to do it?
So if we hear from that attorney before then, that'll probably give us direction as to what we do going forward. But what do you think, John?
I'll be seeing you on Thursday morning. If I haven't heard from him by then, maybe we'll conference call.
Scott, and again, is her argument that she doesn't believe the trees are dead? Why is it that she's?
Well, there's a little bit of, she doesn't believe that the trees are possibly hers, that maybe they're the neighbors, but the pins have been found and they're clearly on her side. And she's also actually painted the trees about 4 different colors,
Okay,
about 10 feet up. And, if they weren't her trees, why would she,
Okay.
paint the trees? So,
okay. Council, any feelings, any
I
recommendations?
just want to protect us legally. Like, if we don't hear from, do you still want him to take him down on June 4th?
That's,
Not
Okay.
sure, the nuisance abatement codes are set, and we've been through, I'm sure they've been read by attorneys, and it's probably pretty typical. And if we follow our standards, we're covered.
Okay,
It's in the ordinance.
okay.
Private trees that pose a risk will be taken down if the property owner doesn't do it in a certain time frame. It's
Okay.
pretty clearly stated.
the only problem I foresee in taking the trees down is the amount of stuff that she has in her yard. It's going to make it very hard for the tree service to get in there on her side and take it out. And I think if you read the stuff that she sent to you, she said they could come through the neighboring property to do that, which she's changed her mind on taking them down completely now. But I don't think that it's right for the neighboring property to the west to possibly have damage to their yard from a truck. That is the responsibility of the person to the east.
okay.
So-
Any other questions, council? No, thank you, Scott, appreciate it. Okay. Next, representative from Alliant, David Vollmer. Good evening, David.
I have new paperwork for you because what I sent you earlier had typos in it, so.
Oh, Michael doesn't like typos.
Just the
We'll
wrong city.
regroup. Thank you. All right, I have one for you.
Thank you. I have a special word for you. Thank you.
Hey, David Vollmer, Senior Key Account Manager with Lion Energy. This is a report that we do every year and bring to you, and it's a look back for the last year is the numbers that I have. So this would be January 1 of 17 through December 31st of what's happened. So what we have in there is what we've done throughout the community in partnership with you. Economic development, Josh, we give $1,000 every year for what he's working on in his group. Under community sport, there's $9,000 in 24. That goes to the chamber. Also, we helped with the arts and convention, had some banners they put up for their anniversary special. We sponsored that. There's also some foundation money to different groups throughout town that are in there. An environmental partnership program, that's a large amount for a community. You've had all the trees that we planted with the Maharishi over there along the route. And also we gave away 300 trees on relief throughout Jefferson County. Energy efficiency projects are what I work with, a lot of the large companies and throughout. So you had 294 rebates that were sent in for a total rebate incentives of $174,000 that came back to people in the community. We saved that many kilowatts and we saved that many therms through our energy efficiency program. And we'll even see this number a lot larger next year because I'm doing a lot of work with Faircast, doing a lot of work with Agra Industrial, and I'm doing a lot of work with your wastewater treatment facility that we're going to see a lot of money come back. Community infrastructure investment, $414,000 there plus. Electrical investments, improvements that we've made into the area within the city, right-of-ways is $262,000 and natural gas $152,000. Taxes total in the county are $305,000, of which Fairfield gets $237,000 annually. And then we have 13 people that work out of our Fairfield operating office. That doesn't mean they live in Fairfield, but they are housed out of this location. And lastly, I know your most important question are streetlights. So streetlights, we sent Aaron an email today where we're just going to clarify exactly what heads we want and what we've got the color to match what you've got downtown. So we've got a proposal to replace all those. So those are brighter, plus what I call the old dinosaur lights are the green ones. So we're looking at those numbers. We want to make sure we got that right. Once we get that, I'll be back with a proposal on what we can do. So my goal is to still get those done before you hang Christmas lights on them, that we know we've replaced those and got those on solid foundations and they're good to go. So that's my goal yet, and we're moving toward that.
Okay, thank you, David. Appreciate that. Council, any questions regarding the presentation? David, I do have one question. How are you going to continue some of the energy efficiency programming given the most recent law? And talk about how that's going to either change or not change what you're doing.
Thank you. We've got we just got information on that today with the new legislation as it's being written. With the way the new legislation is being written, with the calculating figures of what we're doing with what the paybacks are in the energy efficiency clause, companies will not be able to opt out. So we will basically have the same electrical energy efficiencies we've had before on the commercial industrial side. We're not for sure how it's going to affect on the residential side, and we know gas is going to be taking a reduction on energy efficiency. But the large projects,
So in other words, furnaces, replacements.
probably not going to see the rebates we've seen on those. What the feeling is, those furnaces have been at 95, 96% efficiency for a long period of time, and as is lights, a lot of people have already replaced all their lights. So that's my understanding right now. We were just briefed on it today around 3 o'clock, but we do not think the plan that we submitted earlier that we've pulled will be close to the same plan that we'll put in again for the energy efficiency. And we're doing what IUB, what the legislation will note what that amount is that everybody pays in that energy efficiency on the bills. I don't know if that'll start in July, but sometime in August that will start with the new billing.
And will you have a new stated policy for energy efficiency
We
rebates?
will. That we have to submit that by July 9th. Right now, we have our normal one going through the year. We have to submit our plan by July 9th. They're going to interview all of us and go through our plan. And by March 19th of 2019, IUB has to approve everybody's plan.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Dave. Appreciate it. The council will move then to our resolutions, ordinances, and action items. The first one will be the first reading of our natural gas contract that is up for renewal. Before I open the public hearing, Doug, do you have any comments on the committee's discussions regarding the contract?
Yes, we made a few changes to the contract and sent it to Alliant for approval. The significant changes are, well, the only changes are, it's a 25-year contract. Every 5 years, the city has the option to cancel that contract or review it, like we do with the electrical side. Melanie asked that we have a clause in there that the Alliant will meet with the city, they'll form a committee to go over any street projects we might have in the upcoming year to coordinate activity in that regard. And they put in a 90 to 120 day deadline for them to move their infrastructure if it needs to be moved. I think that's the only changes we made, and they approved them, all of our recommendations, and it came back to committee tonight. We are recommending that the council approves it.
Okay, thank you. So we'll open up the public hearing on the first reading of the ordinance to establish the new contract with Alliant Energy. Ask if there's any public comment. Okay, not seeing any, we'll close the public hearing, and we'll move to the first reading of the ordinance establishing a new contract for gas service.
I move that we move from the first to the second reading.
Okay. Moved by Flournoy,
Second.
second by Hamilton. Any other discussion? Okay, if not, please call the roll.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Hallie,
Yes.
Gandy,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Thank you. Next, council will move to a couple of date settings for our public hearing, budget amendment. And first one will be on our budget amendment, and that will be set for June 11th at 7 p.m. Our next meeting. And Rebecca, just as if you can tell us what's in that.
What that is we need to amend what we're taking in, our revenues, which is the good way to do it, amendment. We are getting the $750,000 bond that's supposed to come in June 1st. And then we also did receive more TIF revenues than what was anticipated. So we're pulling in more revenue than it.
Okay, so it'll be a revenue adjustment as opposed
Yeah.
to expenditure adjustment at this point. Great. Okay, so entertain a motion then to set the public hearing for the budget amendment for June 11th.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Anderson, second by Flournoy. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, the same sign. Okay. Next, council, we will set a public hearing for the plan specifications for engineering estimate for West Adams Avenue improvements. Again, that will be for that same date, June 11th at 7 p.m.
So moved.
Motion to approve. Moved by Hamilton, second by Thompson. Any discussion? Not all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Thank you. Okay. Next, council, we have approval of plans and specifications for our Court Street improvements. And Melanie, do you have? Matt will go over those. Thank you. Welcome, Matt.
Good evening. What we have tonight is approximately extending Court Street approximately 500 feet north from Lincoln Avenue over on southeast side of town here. The project also includes extending water main, 8-inch water main, and connecting 18 sanitary sewer services to the existing 12-inch main that's currently in that corridor. We will be bidding the project with two alternates, 7 inches of PCC versus 8 inches of HMA with a concrete curb and gutter. The bids will be open June 7th at 11 a.m. and hopefully awarded at your next council meeting. The road and utility extension will serve phase 2 of the neighborhood builders development that's going on out there. Alternate 1 is the PCC option, and it is estimated at $211,000. And alternate 2 is the HMA, and it's estimated at $228,500. The plan is to pay for the funding with TIF revenue. There is a small change to that due to the developer's agreement. We do need to add 145 feet of storm sewer to take the storm sewer from the street to the east where the property line is, and then the developers will pick it up from there to take it to the pond that's on the Los Deos property. So we've already got a bid item in there. We'll just go ahead and overrun that quantity during construction. But other than that, that's the kind of the general overview. The completion date is October 15th as well.
Okay. Thank you, Matt. Any questions regarding the plans and specifications, council? Okay. If not, I'll open the public hearing on the improvements and the plans and specifications and ask if there's any public comment. Okay. Not seeing any, we'll close the public hearing. And then our action item will be to approve the plans and specifications and entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Hamilton,
Second.
second by Gandy. Discussion? Not all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Okay, thank you. Next, council, we will have a public hearing on the final plat, the preliminary and final plat for the Lincoln Court subdivision Phase 2. Will Matt speak to that, or Melanie?
I'll try and speak to it. What is in your packet includes the preliminary and the final plat for the Phase 2. This did go in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission a couple weeks ago. This area is in a planned unit development. This is the second phase within that development. There were no changes between the first phase and the second phase regarding the PUD as far as setbacks, general lot sizes. Jason, keep going. A couple more pages to the final plat right there. You're looking at lot widths from 30 to 54 being the largest. So this is for fourplexes in the, and Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, you've got fourplexes in lots 14, 15, 16, and 17. And then like in lots 5 and 6, that's a duplex, which is why those are larger. So, but planning and zoning, seeing that this met the existing PUD, did not have any changes and recommended moving it to council.
Okay, thank you, Mel. Appreciate that. Any questions for Melanie? Okay. All right, then we'll open the public hearing on the preliminary and final plat approval. Ask if there's any comment. Chris, any comments? Okay.
I'm just here to answer questions.
Great, thank you. Okay, not seeing any, we'll close the public hearing and ask for a motion to approve the resolution for the preliminary and final plat for Lincoln Court subdivision.
So moved.
Moved by Gandy, second by Hamilton. Any discussion? Not all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Okay, thank you. Okay, next, council, we have a resolution authorizing the expenditure of funds for the urban renewal projects. As you know, we have done that borrowing already, so this resolution will, again, as Rebecca said earlier, it's an allers thing in terms of having all of our paperwork in order for the expenditure of funds. So this resolution will need to be in place to go ahead and begin those projects. So entertain a motion then to approve the resolution.
So moved.
Moved by Thompson,
Second.
second by Hamilton. Any discussion? Not all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Okay, thank you. Council, we have a resolution for the parking restrictions on South D. And Mike, would you like to comment on those?
Sure. So this was an issue that came to Public Safety Transportation Committee a couple meetings ago. And at the time, we were set to recommend to the council to remove parking on the west side of South D Street between Burlington and Adams, and again between Madison and Jackson. Madison and Jackson being adjacent to Washington Elementary School. And we got some public feedback and some requests from some people in that area by Washington that maybe it doesn't need to be all time no parking because it's not near a busy intersection like the blocks by Burlington are. And we reviewed that. There's a sign at the intersection of D and Jackson for the one-way, the temporary one-way of Jackson during school hours. And these aren't those hours. The sign reads 7:30 to 8:30 a.m., 3 to 4 p.m. So we decided that the no parking on the west side of D from Madison to Jackson could match those times. So
Are those the times that are shown here?
those are not the times as shown there. There's just some sort of miscommunication, but the proposal is school day mornings from 7:30 to 8:30 a.m. and then 3 to 4 p.m. school days. The committee, which is the three of us, were discussing this before council, and I have to take credit here. I did not take dubious notes as I usually do because we had the one item and we went straight to a council meeting. So apparently our motion was made that those timeframes would be every day of the year. Is that right, Katie? Not school days. Doug and I feel more inclined to make them school days. I think, Doug, I don't want to speak on your behalf, but
No, I think that's a good idea. Otherwise, it'd be all summer long. Street parking and Saturday and Sunday as well, and holidays.
so so those points would remain as it's stated: school day mornings and school day afternoons. Just the hours would need to change again from 7:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. and 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. would be the times that parking would not be allowed on the west side of D Street between Madison and Jackson. And I'll make that motion.
Is this
to-
right, that it's D to Madison? Or was it
D Street from Madison to Jackson.
the A, is that correct? From
No, it should be
Burlington.
Burlington. All right, we've got some
To
other,
Adams.
we got some fixing. This just came hot off the press this afternoon. Another amendment is A should read, parking shall not be permitted on either side of South D Street from Burlington Street to the intersection of South D Street with Adams Avenue. So A should go from Burlington to Adams. B, the first part reads correctly. It's D Street, Madison Avenue to Jackson Street during the specific hours coinciding with peak school traffic. School day mornings should read from 7:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. School day afternoons from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. And that's the motion I'm going to make. Did you get all that, Rebecca?
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, moved by Hallie, second by Flournoy to approve the no parking as described.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions, council?
I do have a question. I've driven through there a few times here in the last, well, before I went on vacation. And I'd noticed that people that live in the house on the corner of D and Burlington on the southwest corner of that intersection
Yellow house.
are now parking half of their car up on the parking area and half of it in the street many times to try to avoid any conflict in through there. And I know that there are 5 or 6 adults that live in that property, and they all have different working hours. Some work nights, days, second shifts. So they're not there at various times of the day. But you're wanting no parking all the time on both sides of the street from from Burlington all the way down to Adams. That 1 block stretch.
2 blocks.
2 blocks.
2 blocks.
Yeah, it's following an accident that occurred that led to us, but I guess enforced what was being discussed. There was a pretty serious accident.
Well, it was, strange timing. While we were discussing this, there was an
That
accident at that intersection. I talked to the owner, one of the owners of that property, and I said, I feel for you. I understand it's going to be a problem for you, but public safety comes first before street parking. Street parking is a bonus if you can get it, but it is not a right, and we're not going to continue with the situation where vehicles trying to turn onto D or cross Burlington onto D are backed up because of that bottleneck that's created when those vehicles are parked there, which, like you said, is pretty much around the clock. And so it's a real problem during school hours when buses are coming through there, but you can go there in the evening and witness the same situation or experience the same situation. It's too much of a public safety issue to ignore. That's what I told her.
Okay.
How many, what's the accident history there, other than the one that just happened during the time that we've been talking about this? Do we have any sort of accident history on that area?
Yes, we've had an accident. We discussed it with public safety. It's a main thoroughfare for not only the school buses, but emergency vehicles responding to Washington School.
Well, it's part of our federal aid route.
Yeah, to the point we've actually started to go down Madison, although it's still as crowded as D Street was, but there is definitely a public safety concern. We've had less serious accidents in that area. When vehicles think that they can get south on D. David, they start and then have to stop for traffic, and then we'll have rear end type accidents. When the light turns green and the vehicles start through. Nothing major though, just minor accidents. But yes, there's been other accidents.
Okay. I guess that answered my questions.
Okay. Anything else? All right, so we have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Hallie?
Yes.
Flournoy?
Yes.
Gandy?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Hamilton?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes unanimously. Next, council will move to our second reading, and this would be to amend the speed limits on Highway 1 South. This is as directed by the Department of Transportation and what we can do. So we do have some of those changes, and we have some temporary signage that's in place there right now. I will open up the public hearing portion of the ordinance reading and ask if there's any public comment. Okay, not seeing any, we'll close the public hearing. Chief, any reports from your side about the speed changes or anything that people have noticed or commented on?
We've had all positive comments. The citizens are concerned about the increase in traffic, and the officers are also excited that it'll be more standardized and easier to enforce, both north and south traffic being the same speed.
Great. Okay, thank you very much. So then I'd entertain a motion to move the repeal of Ordinance 1056 and the new speed limits for Highway 1 from the second to the third reading.
So moved.
Moved by Anderson.
Second.
Second by Gandy. Discussion? Please call the roll.
Anderson?
Yes.
Gandy?
Yes.
Hallie?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Flournoy?
Yes.
Hamilton?
I will abstain because of my employment with the Iowa Department of Transportation.
Okay. Thank you, Darren. Appreciate it. Okay. Next, Council, I just wanted to mention that I have been impressed with some of the volunteer groups that have been working on the downtown nodes. We're having a really good year in our downtown with people that are really pitching in to take care of those. They look good early in the year. And it's clear that the volunteers that are doing this are all on the same page and are putting in some good hours. So we really want to thank them for that assistance in our downtown. Next, we'll move to our committee and board reports. The Environmental and Franchise Committee, anything beyond what we did tonight, Doug?
Well, we did have a suggestion by a community member to set up battery collection sites around the city for recycling, but we didn't take any action on that. We're going to look into it more.
Okay.
So other than that, nothing.
Okay, thank you. Next, we'll move to Property Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Property Committee met this evening. We had present all members of the Property Committee, myself, Darren Hamilton, and Katie Anderson. We had also present for a period of time, Chief of Police, Fire Chief, City Engineer, and we also had, for the primary item on the agenda, President of the Fairfield Little League and several of the voting members of the board. The main issue had to do with the Fairfield Little League lease from the city. Their lease is a 25-year lease. It terminates, I believe, the end of August of this year, and so we're beginning the process of, and our discussions of perhaps in some way modifying or amending that lease. And there were a couple of things that came up, issues that are of some concern that we discussed at this meeting this evening. We think in the next month or so, we're going to be able to work out these, I think, relatively minor issues, but important issues, and change slightly the language of the lease to make it a little bit more accurate for what the Little League would like to do going forward, what the city would want them to do and can allow. So it was a successful meeting. I think we're going to be employing the city attorney to do some work based on that meeting. Our second item on the agenda had to do with signage, but that matter fortunately was solved even before we got to the point to discuss it. So we had a successful meeting, and we'll be having another one, and I think certainly soon we'll have a new lease with Fairfield Little League.
Okay.
That's it.
All right, thank you very much. Next, we'll move to our administrative reports. Aaron, do you want to start?
I met with the Board of Supervisors this morning regarding the TIF amendment or urban renewal area for Lincoln Court Street. Because we were asking for a 15-year TIF rather than a 10-year, we had to get a concurrence from the local taxing entities, and this morning they approved that. I will be meeting with the school board on Thursday this week at 5:30 to approach them regarding that. I think that'll be a good conversation and shouldn't have a lot of bumps in the road there either. But that's the important thing with that. I'm also working on comprehensive plan RFPs, working through those. We're contacting references and stuff for them to talk to the council about possibly setting up a couple interviews with possible groups.
Okay. All right, thank you. One of the other items in here is this letter from the USDA about funding the Centauri Sioux. Do you have we had any conversations back to them regarding what they've asked us?
They're just asking us to look at the costs and the benefits and negative of using USDA dollars compared to going with SRF. We had a preliminary conversation with SRF last week. We'll be having a few more conversations with them to determine how much the costs will be, and hopefully we'll be able to have Travis Squires present the differences here in the near future as far as which is a better fit.
Would the SRF funding include the clean water portion that we were looking at previously when we were looking at SRF?
It would, except since it's a smaller project, we'd have to back off on the dollars that they would give us for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
They're based on the size of the amount of money that you borrow.
Yeah, it was a 1%, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I think the interest rate was like 2 3/4, and 1% of that was to be used for clean water supporting projects that we had worked up.
Yeah, that's so. Yeah, which was attractive, but eventually that savings with the 1.65 loan versus the 2.2.
Right.
And I think that's the same point that they're making here. But we will be getting a report back to make a decision on it. We haven't made that decision.
Correct.
Okay. Very good. And Melanie, you have a project update.
Good evening. I'm going to go over a few more projects than maybe what I normally do. There's been a lot more public comment and concern about some of the projects, so just making you aware of where we stand on those. First, to the SRF discussion, Aaron did mention the call to SRF, and what we're working on right now is kind of the steps, the hurdles, if we go this route rather than that route. And so in addition to the funds, we're looking at some of those things. So we have full overall numbers rather than just the construction costs. So that is one of the things that we've been working on. Step one, and the addition to step one, we did an 11-month walkthrough with USDA and the contractors and French Reniker. I'm happy to say after, I think, 18 months that we have over 75% coverage of the seeding. Really with the moisture this spring, the seeding that's been sitting there for a year did take off finally. And although sparse in some areas, we're looking at really good cover, particularly on the step one projects. Some of the seed mixes worked better than others, but the stuff that's out there looks really good. So we will be removing the silt fence along that project and just focusing on really isolated spots rather than the whole project as a whole. And then when the treatment plant gets ready to accept the larger flows, we'll basically be turning on step one and 1.5 or the addition to step one at that time, and then we'll finally get to close these projects out. It's really just not a lot of money being spent on this. It's just keeping up with the reporting and the paperwork. So, and the wastewater treatment plant does look on schedule to accept that water yet this fall. So there's positive news on the step one in the addition to step one after about a year of sitting and not doing much. Step two is also progressing nicely as far as the landowners being contacted. We've had many of them signed. We were hoping to have some of them to you tonight, but I know in June we'll start to see a lot of those come to council for approval. With the wastewater treatment plant and the equalization basin, probably something else you've heard us talk about here at City Hall is getting the effluent line from the wastewater treatment plant to the Fairfield Golf and Country Club. It is up and running now. Well, it was on Friday, so but I didn't check back with Sean today. It's up and running with the construction. There is a temporary solution going on. You may see the watering at the golf course happening a little bit more during daylight hours than what we've seen in the past. It's because of the storage is not there for the golf course to draw off of. But another thing that is moving in the right direction over the last month, Walton Spillway. Again, a lot of progress made there. The only item left to pour on that is lower walls. So we are looking at this time. There should not be any reason for the city to draw the lake down again. Just kind of this time of year, the drier year, we wouldn't expect it to fill up really fast. So really it'd just be the natural evaporation and as well as what the golf course uses. That would be keeping those levels low, but that project is also finally nearing completion. Adams Avenue, that project in the last month has been paved and seeded. And then phase two, you set the public hearing for that tonight. The airport taxiway, this is a project we haven't talked about a lot, but the bids did come in April. And we noted at the last meeting the bids were high, but we did decide to, Aaron and myself and Bob, the airport manager, decided to reject those bids. It was just one that was received and looking to rebid the project when there is more FAA funds available. Down here on the list, Tyler Street over by Traffics. It's going so well, I had trouble even writing an update. So we like those projects that just keep moving forward. And then lastly, the only thing I want to point out at the end of the third page is Iowa DNR floodplain and dam safety does inspections of the Fairfield dams on a 5-year cycle. With the exception of Walton, they've been here every year for the last couple of years as we've been doing these repairs. Bonneville Lake was inspected this year, and DNR says this is not an official engineering inspection, but in their book, it was an overall satisfactory rating with a few minor repairs that are needed, but they did like the condition of Bonneville. Walton, they'll come back when it's completely finished. But instead of giving you the whole 20-page report, I thought I'd just give you that much and save you the time. So thank you, unless there's any questions.
Any questions for Melanie?
Melanie, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
You said we voted on the Adams project during our agenda item. Should that have said East Adams instead of West?
Yes.
On our agenda? Okay.
Yes, it's the west portion of the two.
East. All right, so it should say East Adams.
Yeah, I was gonna catch back later.
Oh, yeah. I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
Yep, it is the same section between Maple and D.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you, Melanie, for your report. Appreciate that. And that brings us to the end of our agenda. If there's any other business, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Moved by Hamilton.
Second.
Second by Gandy. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Meeting adjourned.
As I get an